Hi everybody, this is Renee from the Planner Place, and today I'm going to talk to you how I made a circle time binder. So this is something that I have in my classroom, and I use it either at circle time, and then I also use it for review at centers time, which is going to be at a table. So what I normally use in the classroom is something called a Promethean board, and it's basically just a screen that is attached to a projector. And then I also use a pocket chart from Lakeshore that has everything that I need for circle time. Now, inevitably, something with technology is going to go wrong, and I just think it's good to have a backup. So starting off in my circle time binder, I have the sign language for my name is, and I can go through this with every single student, and they can say what their name is by imitating the signs and also verbally expressing themselves. So moving into some pre-academics, the first thing that we're going to talk about is the current month. So for every single month, when I use the Promethean board and I have access to speakers in the computer, we do have a monthly song. For December, we have a monthly song. For January, for every single month, and there are hand motions that go with that. So if I don't have that, this is an easy way for me to talk about the month. Next, we're going to talk about prepositions. So what I did was just laminate a car, and then I can move it all around the apple. I can ask questions about where is the car, and I can also have students tell me whether the car is upside down or right side up. After we talk about prepositions, the next thing that we're going to go over is the current season, and this is going to be the same concept as before. Now, when I made this circle time binder, this goes in the exact same order as if I was doing this on the Promethean board, so nothing is out of the ordinary. Next, we're going to talk about the letter of the week, and that does change from week to week. So in this section, I can either use a flashcard or I can also use a dry erase marker to circle the current letter that we're on, and then I can also write it in the box that says letter of the week. This also gives students a chance to identify certain letters, whether they are uppercase or lowercase, and also they are able to spell out their name. So the blank space that's right here gives students an opportunity, if they're at that level, to imitate letters of their name. Moving on to shapes, all of the shapes are grouped by category. So they can either sort by the type of shape, or I can say, okay, point to the blue rectangle, point to the yellow circle. So we can identify and we can also sort on this page. Now we're going to move on to counting. So right now we have a number strip from 0 to 10, so students can practice counting the individual squares, or on the second page I have a bunch of blue dots, and there's various ways that you can use this. You can have a student first count verbally all the way up to 7. Then you could go over to the jar, and I just go ahead and turn it so the students can see it, and they are able to use the laminated blue dots and count everything out. So once we get through counting, the next thing that we're going to talk about are animals, and there's so many different things you can do with this. You can imitate animal sounds, you can identify the colors of the animals, you can identify the actual animals as well. Next, we're going to move on to body parts, and this is really important, especially with young children, for them to be able to identify body parts in case something is wrong so they can verbally tell you. So this just goes over the parts of the face, and this is a goal that definitely all of my students work on. And then the second page is going to continue just with body parts. So I can read each sentence, and then they can point to their hands, their fingers, their legs, etc. There's also a picture of a face down at the bottom. Next, we're going to move on to clothing, and we're going to talk about the weather. So one thing that I always include is what's the weather, and that means what type of clothing that we're going to wear outside. This is really important when you talk to students about their belongings and keeping everything together. This page I included in here for various reasons. Students can identify different colors of clothing that students are wearing, and then there's also a word that is very familiar to them, which is a backpack. On the next page, we're going to talk about colors, and once again, there are various ways that you can use this page. You can use this as review just to go over every single color, and then I also have laminated dots of each color that students are able to match. Once again, after they match the colors, you can also have students go back and count all of the dots. So the last part of this binder is going to focus on tracing. When I do have access to the Promethean board, we have special pens so students are able to trace things that I put up on the board, and they're also able to write. So just using a dry erase marker or even a wet erase marker, you can have students trace right on top of all of these letters. Normally, I have students trace on top of yellow, but for my students who are visually impaired, they need a color that's a little bit darker, so purple and green work well. This is just construction paper that I wrote on with a Crayola marker, and then I put it right into the sleeve. So this next section gives students the opportunity to practice writing out their name. Even if they're not at that level yet, I still want them to practice. For students who are at that level, we also have squares where they can practice imitating, or they can use these squares as boundaries to spell out their first and their last name. So the very last section in this binder is going to be letter tracing. Now I'm just going to show you the first page because this resource I did get from a different teacher, and I believe she downloaded it off the internet, and so I don't know if I'm able to show it to you. So this is just the first page. As you can tell, it's letter A, and then at the top of each letter A there are items that start with that particular letter. So I do have this in here for letter tracing for A through Z, and then at the end I also have numbers from 0 to 10. So the tracing is going to be the end of my circle time binder. The other thing I wanted to show you are just visuals and how I use them in the classroom. So this is just another binder, and these are pages from a sign language book that I used in college. I just went through each chapter and I basically tore out the vocabulary review for every single one of the sections. And I like to keep this with me at circle time and also at the table just in case I may have forgotten a certain sign when I'm communicating with students. I think that this is a great resource. You can also just use a sign language dictionary or anything like that, but you definitely want to make sure that when you're speaking to students that you have the correct signs. And even with the little ones who are just learning vocabulary, I think this is also a great resource because it is a picture that I can show them. If I'm signing a vocabulary word such as dance or jump, I can show them the visual of someone actually dancing or jumping, and then also there's an image of someone signing that sign as well. So the last thing that I wanted to show you are visuals that I use in my classroom, and these are primarily for behavior and classroom rules and following directions. So I keep all of these visuals on just a small O-ring, as you can tell. These have been printed out using a color printer, and these are from the Boardmaker CD-ROM. But if you don't have a color printer, you could also just hand draw these just with stick figures. I have done that in the past when the printer hasn't been working. And I use these throughout the entire school day. I also have greetings such as hi as and bye. And I also have answers to simple questions such as yes and no. Something else I wanted to show you was just to give you another option besides using an O-ring. You can also use a pocket photo album, and you can slide your visuals right into each of the photo places. This makes it really easy, especially if you're working with older elementary school students or even middle schoolers, because it's something that they can carry around with them. That's going to do it for me for this video, guys. I hope that you found this informative and helpful. If you have any questions, of course, leave them in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye.